So now I'm going to give you the real deal. And now you're dealing with excruciating pain because you didn't pay attention. When you pay attention, now you're in control of how to take back the pain from affecting you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually because you're paying attention to the body.
Welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. I'm your host, Lee Brandon. This work started for me several decades ago when I started to see the impact I could make on people, helping them to identify the root cause of their health problems that no doctor could figure out, including serious back, knee, shoulder and neck injuries, acne and eczema issues, severe gut health problems, even helping couples get pregnant after several IVF treatments had failed. And it really moves me to be able to help people in this way. And that is why I do what I do and why we have this show. Welcome back to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. In this episode, we dive into the power of touch and how it can be harnessed to reduce pain and promote healing. I'm joined by reflexologist and wise woman, Njedika Olatunde, who brings decades of experience in natural healing, specializing in reflexology and the body's innate ability to restore balance. We explore the science and wisdom behind reflexology, the profound effects of therapeutic touch on the nervous system, and how hands-on healing can be a powerful tool for pain relief. Njedika shares her insights on how reflexology works, why touch is such an essential aspect of well-being, and how you can incorporate these principles into your daily life. If you're looking for natural, non-invasive ways to manage pain and improve overall health, you won't want to miss this episode. Njedika Olatunde, welcome to the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to sharing with your listeners.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. And to kick things off, could you perhaps share your educational and professional background, and also what motivated you to become interested in the power of touch and reflexology?
Oh, wow, that's a powerful question. Now, let me see how I can break that down. Well, first, I'll tell you how I got started. As a child, I grew up with home remedies. And back then, doctors used to come to the home, for house call visits. And as a child, I said, oh, wow, that's what I want to be when I grow up. I saw doctors as being healers, and I wanted to be a healer. So by the time I got to college, I got a rude awakening that that's not what doctors do. And I said, okay, well, I guess I won't make a good doctor. So I changed my career and went into social work. And I covered the whole gambit in social work, working with infants to seniors and every type of social service issue that was covered. That's what I did. But one of the things that disturbed me the most was that people were going to the emergency room as their primary physician. And I said, well, something's wrong with this picture. And that kind of sparked the energy again to me wanting to become a doctor. And at that time, it was opening up to the alternative practitioners and training programs. And I went back and got my training and became a naturopathic practitioner. And as a practitioner, I was originally trained in reflexology, so I added that to my practice. And from the reflexology, I started using that as a means of relieving pain using the power of touch. So that's how it kind of evolved to what I do today.
So your training is as a naturopath, and you studied reflexology.
Yes.
Anything else that you use as well? Anything else that you've studied that's kind of relevant?
Well, basically, because my initial training in reflexology came from a cultural health perspective. And I spent many years just focusing and studying reflexology. So I've had the opportunity to train nationally, internationally, locally as well, in terms of just really fine-tuning the art and mastering the skills of incorporating touch as a healing tool. Because one of the things that for some reason, we only think of touch as something physical.
Mm,
But touch as it relates to healing is a lot more than that, because touch is something that affects us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, physically as well. And
mm,
so incorporating all of those into reflexology as a modality that focuses specifically on relieving pain.
mm. Yeah, I know from my own studies. One of the institutes I study with is the Czech Institute, and in some of the training, we did look into reflexology. Not in
Mhm.
I'm sure the depth that you have, because we're talking about probably half a day's training, whereas you probably studied it for years.
Right.
But one of the things that we were using it for was, so in one respect, we get our clients to fill in lots of questionnaires, and it gives us lots of ideas in terms of what systems might potentially be going wrong in the body. And then what you can do is you can use reflexology points to back up. So it might be, okay, they've scored high on the liver. Let's just test their liver reflex point. It's say in the foot. Does it match? Right?
Yeah.
Have you ever used reflexology for that kind of purpose?
Well, basically, let me kind of qualify that. Basically, when you think of reflexology, you think of reflexology in the conventional and allopathic way of dealing with treatment. But theoretically, reflexology focuses specifically on the whole body from head
Mm,
to toe. And I
mm,
say that to say it's because wherever you are experiencing pain in the body, that's not the cause.
mm,
That's just the outlet. Like we'll
mm,
use the example of the liver. Okay, the liver area, nerve ending on the hands and feet may have an issue related to toxicity. It may have an issue related to that area, may be an old pain area on the hands or feet. Or that area could also be a dealing with poor circulation in that nerve ending to the liver reflex point. So there are a lot of combinations. But
mm,
when you talk about using as a questionnaire, that's very keen as it relates to reflexology, because one of the things that a reflexologist does first as a practitioner, when we talk about touch, the first form of touch in the healing process is known as listening.
mm,
And so when a client comes to me, and I always use this analogy, is that when you go to the store and you want to buy something, you know exactly what it is you want to buy, and that's what you go and
mm,
purchase. When a person comes to me and they're in pain, what they want to buy is pain relief. That's what they're
mm,
looking for. They're not looking for anything else. All they want is relief from pain. But before I can even get to that point of giving them what they want, I have to listen. And when I'm listening, what I'm allowing them to do is to talk to me about their pain.
mm,
And what I'm specifically listening for is what we don't never talk about, is the pain stress connection. All of illnesses are related to stress. And stress is something that happens outside of the body that we bring inside. And that's where it starts breaking down weak areas in the body in the form of pain that can really manifest into what can be a defined illness. But it's all connected to stress. And so once I'm able to connect the stress area, now we can move to what I call relieving pain first before treatment. And when we do it like that, what we're talking about is integrating other alternative therapies into the treatment process, because there's no one therapy that can do it all. We have
Mm,
11 systems of the body that need different things.
mm,
So in terms of what may be going on, does that mean that we need to see a chiropractor? We may need to see an acupuncturist. We may need to see a massage therapist. Is physical therapy involved? Do we need exercise? Do we need cleansing? Do we need energy healing? There's a combination of things that you put into place as a treatment protocol in addressing what's causing the pain.
mm. Yeah, I mean, what you've just described there is a holistic approach, right?
Yes,
I
yes,
mean that word is quite often overly used,
yes,
uh, but what you've described is a holistic approach, and obviously you can add more things in there, and
sure.
I'm sure you do potentially use more things, but quite often, I can remember years ago, I was working in a health club. This is probably 25 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and we had what was called a holistic studio.
Okay. All right.
All it meant was they taught yoga and Pilates,
Yes,
and that
yes.
was considered holistic. Well, I mean, I guess proper yoga, you could potentially say that is holistic, potentially.
It's an integrative approach. And see,
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at, integration, how you integrate various modalities to work in oneness together.
Mm,
And see, this is something that there's only one branch of medicine in allopathic that does this. Do you think you know what that is?
in allopathic medicine, well, I would say general
That has an
practitioners.
that has an integrative approach.
Well, I would say that general practitioners are supposed to be, but they probably don't. But no, I couldn't name one.
Surgery.
Oh, explain.
When you're in surgery, what do you have? The anesthesiologist, you may have a cardiovascular, you have different practitioners in there at the
Mm,
same time
mm,
working their specific area
mm,
in the surgery. That's the only area where you have an integrative approach of
interesting.
multiple doctors
Mm,
working together in
yeah,
oneness to complete the surgery.
yeah, yeah. I kind of get what you're saying there. Um, what what my experience of surgery is, and I know you're making a different point, but my experience with surgery. Let's say someone comes to me and they've got knee pain. Let's say,
Mhm.
well, I look at the whole being,
Sure.
right? The physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual.
Exactly.
But if you go to an orthopedic surgeon with knee pain, right? You
Right.
know, the saying, if your only tool is a hammer, everything's going to look like a nail,
Right.
right? So,
Exactly.
so if you go to a surgeon, what's the likely treatment you're going to get?
It's gonna cut something out, most likely.
Right. So so in that aspect, surgery isn't properly holistic, but I understand what you were saying. In the actual moment of surgery, yes, they've got anestheticians and
The
et cetera,
thing
et
that I
cetera.
was really getting, and trust me, I understand exactly what you're saying
Yeah.
as it relates to surgery. The
Mm,
thing is the fact that you just have a combination of many different practitioners working
yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that makes it holistic and integrative.
Yeah.
When we can have multiple practitioners working together
Mm,
in their specific modality to
yeah.
bring about healing and wellness to the clients and patients that you serve.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. So, so you were saying the first step before touch was to listen,
Yes,
and it might be that person needs something before they have reflexology.
yes.
So in that instance, do you have like a team of people you tend to refer to? Does that how it work? Is that how it works for you?
That's basically after we deal with the pain, and to back up, as soon as you have a client who is now feeling some sense of relief as it relates to the pain, they're now more apt to want to work with you in putting together a treatment plan.
Mm.
Because one of the things about allopathic medicine, bar none, it's excellent on diagnosing, but treatment is another area. Treatment is not one of their fortes,
Mm.
but they can diagnose. And so what we do in terms of when somebody comes in and they have a diagnosis, the first thing I'm going to tell my clients / patients is to now think about your body like you do your automobile,
Mm.
because the automobile is designed as a carbon copy of your body. It operates the exact same way. When you purchase an automobile, what do they say? At X number of months, whatever, you need to take the car for a maintenance checkup, and you follow those instructions.
Mm.
The same thing applies to your body
Mm.
in terms of when you see your body in terms of it needs a maintenance checkup as well. And I throw something else in there. Not only are we talking about the physical body needs a maintenance checkup, the mind needs a maintenance checkup as well. We
Mm.
got to include mental health now in
Yeah.
terms of body checkup for wellness. And I say that to say it's because when you're looking at it from that particular perspective, when something is going wrong with your car and you walk into the mechanic and say, okay, my engine light is on, I'm hearing some clanking in the back of my car, I don't know what that is. A mechanic automatically knows what it needs to do in order to start doing the repair.
Mm.
That's what a mechanic does.
Mm.
You've got to stop taking your body into the doctor's office like the doctor is a mechanic. You can't go in there and say, oh, my back is aching and in the lower part of my back, and expect the doctor to know what it is. Because what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to say, we've got to do some tests. When we do some tests, then we can decide what we need to do for the treatment. But in the meantime, here's a prescription that deals with the pain you're in, not knowing the cause of the pain,
Mm.
just something to relieve the pain. So when you understand how your body operates, because when pain happens, it doesn't happen overnight.
Mm.
It's a process. You may get a little pain and it's kind of, oh, wow, that's a little bit uncomfortable, but I can bear it. And then it comes back again. It's a little more intense. Ooh, this is it's bothering me a little bit more than the first one did, but I'll deal with it. And then the body's going to say, okay, I gave you 2 warnings. You didn't pay attention. So now I'm going to give you the real deal. And now you're dealing with excruciating pain because you didn't pay attention.
Mm. Are you struggling with pain or injury that's preventing you from performing at your best? Let me share a story with you about Simon, an accountant who came to see me with debilitating back pain. Simon had been pushing himself in the gym with heavy weights and poor form, which led to pain so bad he couldn't sit, stand, or focus at work. We began with a thorough assessment, and I used active release techniques to help manage his pain. From there, I designed a bespoke rehab program that allowed Simon to regain his strength and fitness while addressing the root cause of his back pain. In just 1 month, his pain was nearly gone, and 2 months later, he's pain-free, back to lifting his maximum weights, and stronger than ever. More importantly, his productivity at work has improved, and he's feeling much happier. If you're dealing with pain that's affecting your life or performance, I can help you too. Let's work together to get you back on track and feeling at your best. Reach out today for a consultation at www.bodycheck.co.uk and reclaim the life you deserve.
When you pay attention, now you're in control of how to take back the pain from affecting you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because you're paying attention to the body. And that way, you're able to work with your practitioner, because the one thing you need to understand is that when you work with a practitioner, it's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street.
Mm.
Just like The practitioner is working to heal you and help you to get better. What the practitioner's only role is to assist the body in the healing process. And
Mm,
to do that, that involves you and the practitioner working in oneness together to make this happen.
mm. Yeah, I mean, you said so many things that, I completely agree with, and it's, you know, my philosophy is no different.
Mhm.
Um, what I think is important to clarify at this point, we're both talking about chronic pain, right? We're talking about
Yes,
an ongoing. We're not talking about someone has a car accident and
right,
their legs hanging off, right? We're talking
right,
about,
right.
you know, back pain, for instance. So, someone gets back
Yes,
pain.
yes.
Um, it's quite interesting. When was it? 2013. I woke up one morning and I thought, oh, my back aches. This doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
And I went to get out of bed and I couldn't move.
Right,
I thought, oh, this is strange. So I rolled out of bed
right.
and I lay on the floor and I thought, oh, my entire left leg is numb. I thought, oh, that's
Uh-huh.
not good. That sounds like a nerve entrapment in my lumbar spine.
Yes, yes.
So I thought, well, I know how to deal with this. I've healed, many people with a similar injury. I'll do some mobilizations of the spine. I'll centralize the spinal cord, or at least the nerves in the lumbar spine,
Right.
and I'll be able to get back up and I'll be fine. So I've done my mobilizations. I managed to stand up, but it still didn't feel quite right. I did some more mobilizations standing up,
Yes.
and I said to myself, "This doesn't feel any different." And now I'm starting to worry. I'm thinking, "Oh, hang on, this is
Sure.
this is more serious than I thought." Um, and basically, what happened was I had a herniated L4-5 and a quite badly bulging L5-S1 disc.
Oh, wow.
Again, I've told this story 100 times on the podcast. I won't go into too much detail, but again, the idea is that you've got to find out what was the root cause of that issue. But
Uh-huh.
what I wanted to do, I wanted to just clarify what I thought, because I know where the dermatomes are in my leg. I kind of knew it was L4-5 and L5-S1 because that's what
Right.
my body was telling me.
Yes.
But obviously, you have to be able to read the body, right?
Yes. Yes.
So so I went to my doctor I just wanted to get an MRI. I just needed a
Sure.
referral to get an MRI scan.
Sure.
And so I started talking to him, and very soon into the conversation, he realized that I understood a lot more than he did, right? About
Okay.
lower back pain, because I've been doing it for 20 odd years.
Right.
And I think he felt like he needed to do something, right? To kind of
Uh-huh.
almost justify his job.
Right.
So
Right.
So he said, "Oh, pop your top off. I'm just going to inspect your spine." And I thought, what does that even mean?
Right.
And so he just ran his finger down my spine. He may have been assessing for a spondylolisthesis, maybe,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but he ran his finger down my spine and he went, "Oh no, all seems good to me." And I'm thinking, well, it's definitely not good, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't good.
Sure.
So so anyway, he said, "Look, I can refer you for an MRI, but it's going to be 4 weeks in the future."
Right.
And I'm like, "No, no, 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 I want it today." And he's like, "Well, obviously, we have a taxpayer funded health
Right. Right.
service."
Right. Right.
So I said, "No, no, 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 I want it today." And he's like, "Well, you'd have to pay." And I'm like, "Well, that's fine. I just want it today." Anyway, I had it the next day. But before I left, he said, "Oh, I'm going to give you a prescription for anti-inflammatories and for painkillers." And I said, "Well, I don't want any." And he's like,
Uh-huh.
"What do you mean?" I said, "I don't want any." He's like, "Why not?" And I said, "Because if I'm moving into a position that's causing
Exactly.
more damage, I want to be able to
Exactly.
feel it." And he
Exactly.
and he looked at me like, I should probably be going down to the local mental institute, right? And I said, "Look, you can write the prescription if you want. I'm not going to take them anyway."
Exactly.
And I think I was the first person that must have ever said anything like that to him before.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Uh, the other thing you mentioned as well was how, allopathic medicine is very good at diagnosing. I've actually got a lot of experience of when they've misdiagnosed quite badly.
I'm sure.
Um, I mean, yes, they can be good sometimes,
Mhm,
and even when I got my MRI scan for my spine, it did happen to completely mash up with my symptoms.
mhm,
But
mhm.
sometimes you can get an MRI and it doesn't match someone's symptoms at all.
That's true.
I
That's
was
very
literally
true.
talking. I was literally talking to a client yesterday, and he's got quite severe hip pain. Doctors are kind of saying, "Oh, we might have to give you a hip replacement." And when they did the MRIs, his good hip looks far worse than his bad hip, right? So you do have to be really, really careful with things like that.
That's very true. And you hit on a really good point when you said about pain medication.
Mm,
And people need to understand what pain medication does. What it does, it numbs the nerve endings. So you're no longer feeling the pain. But when it wears off, you still got the problem and you're
mm,
still looking for what? More pain medication.
mm,
And that's something that has to be understood. And you have to and I can identify with you. I operate the same way. I was involved in a car accident where I was rear-ended, where the back of the car was all the way up there to the front.
wow.
And the first thing that I wanted to do was to get x-rays to find out what was going on.
Mm,
And just like what happened to you, the first thing they said, well, you're going to need pain medication. No, because right now my body's in shock. So I don't want pain medication because
mm,
I need to be able to feel where the pain is
mm,
so I know what I need to do.
mm,
If I take the medication, then you're going to be dealing with this is why you see so many people that have been in car accidents that never get over that back pain problem because of taking the pain medication.
mm,
And so then now you're in a situation where you're always having back pain all the time. And it doesn't have to be that way when you get in tune with your body.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when you were talking earlier about, the analogy of the car, again, it's an analogy I use quite a lot myself as
Mhm.
well. And, you know, when you have that engine warning light going off on your dashboard, that's exactly the same as a symptom on our body.
Yeah,
It's making you aware that there's a problem on the inside that you can't see,
that's it.
right? So when you take if you've got chronic pain and you take pain medication, it's like cutting the lead to the light bulb on your dashboard because now you haven't got the signal,
Hmm.
right?
Exactly. Exactly.
When what you need to do is to find out what's going on with the engine and get the engine fixed because it's something, whatever's causing the engine to go wrong is the cause of the problem, right?
Exactly.
So, when you were speaking and what really came to light to me is, a phrase that, we use a lot at the Czech Institute is the concept of the pain teacher.
Okay. Yes.
So
Yes.
when we're in pain, it's it's your subconscious mind trying to communicate something to you,
Most definitely.
right?
Hmm.
And when you have chronic pain, your mission is to establish what your subconscious mind is trying to tell you.
You're right. That's
Um,
exactly right.
and what was interesting with my back injury, and that's quite a severe injury. It took about 22 months to rehabilitate. I mean, I'm
Ooh,
perfectly fine now. Um, the lesson the pain teacher was trying to teach me was to not work too hard
uh-huh.
and to have more downtime.
All right. All right. It
So
it
guess what?
comes with some crucial lessons. Yes.
Yeah. So I know if I work too hard, I'm going to experience pain.
Mhm.
So I now make sure that I give myself enough time to rest and recover and recuperate.
It's so important. And it's interesting how you said the lessons, and the lessons don't necessarily have to be really hardcore. They could be
Mm,
just some basic things that you can start doing. As I always like to say, taking back control of your
mm,
life from
mm,
pain. And just like what you said so elegantly, just listening to the body. It's not going to do anything to harm you. It's going to do things to help you
mm,
if you are willing and open to listening. That's why when you start talking about alternative ways to relieve pain, it has to begin with having an open mind
mm,
and being receptive to just looking at, not saying you got to try it right away, but be open to look at other ways that can help me get to the goal of having optimum health and wellness.
mm. Yeah. Again, another thing that you said there is really important. It's it's taking that power back yourself rather than putting responsibility on someone in a white coat to fix you.
Yeah,
Right. The only person that can make you healthy is you.
most definitely.
Right.
That's
I mean,
your power.
yeah. I mean, you can ask for help
Yes.
and you can get the right help at the right time,
Mm.
but ultimately, there's only one person that can get you healthy. And go if you're not sure who that is, go and look in a mirror, and you'll find that person.
And the bottom line is you got to want it. It's got to
Yeah.
be something that you want. Do you want to be healthy?
Mm,
Do you want to be well? Do you want to be pain free? If this is something you want, then go for it.
mm,
That's all the universe is saying. I
mm,
have the tools for you. They're right inside of you. And the best tool that you don't realize that you have for your healing is inside your hands.
mm.
Your hands are a powerful healing tool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is really important that you have to want it. And what I've seen over the last sort of 29 years or so is, as practitioners, our biggest challenge isn't telling people or giving people the right advice. It's getting the people to follow the advice
You're right.
for them to actually change their behavior. And that's why at the end of last year, I actually released a course called Stickability.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
teaches people, first of all, how to get more motivated, how to get more confident in being able to make changes, but then how to really build motivation to change and to maintain it as well.
I like that.
Yeah, because you know, it's something that I've spent a lot of time studying over, the last 3 decades almost.
Yes.
And I kind of felt, why am I keeping this to myself? Like, I work with clients one to one, and I'm bringing these tools out on a daily basis. Like someone says something to me, and straight off in my head, oh, they need this tool right now. I'm like, okay, I need to tell them this, or I need to use this technique to help them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I thought everyone needs that information, and so I just packaged it up. And the lessons are really short; they're only like 5 minutes each lesson. Obviously, you've got to do some work, right?
Sure.
As you do with anything. And I've made it really affordable as well, because I didn't, I want people to be able to make that change, because, right now we're in a point in time where it's more important than ever to take responsibility for your own health and not to give up that responsibility to an external force, so to speak. Did you know that 92% of people fail to follow through on their New Year's resolutions? That's right. Year after year, most of us start strong and then lose momentum by February. Sound familiar? But what if this year could be different? What if you finally had the tools to make your goals stick? Introducing Stickability, a simple, effective, and affordable program designed to help you overcome the cycle of failed resolutions. In just a short time, you'll learn how to create lasting habits without wasting hours or breaking the bank. This isn't just another plan. It's the solution to finally sticking to your healthy lifestyle goals. Don't let this year be like the last. Head over to stickabilitycourse.com now to enroll. It's affordable, easy to follow, and packed with tools to make 2025 the year that you have the ability to make it stick.
What you have done, and I really like that, is going back to what we talked about earlier, the mindset. And what you just shared is how you're helping people to change their mindset. So once you change your mindset, now you are in the driver's seat in terms of driving forward to your optimum health and wellness, because that's where it begins. Nothing's going to happen until your mind changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, I say sadly, the important thing for a lot of people to understand as well is that around 95 to 99% of all our behaviors are subconscious.
Oh, definitely.
So people,
Definitely.
people don't even know why they're making certain choices, you know?
And the fact that, like, when it comes to health and wellness, we've been led to the quick fix. There is no quick fix
Yeah.
because, like I said earlier, it did not come suddenly and now you have it. It's been building up to this point. So if it's building up to that point, how do you expect a quick fix to solve your problem?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So just leading on nicely from mindset, why do you believe that the mind body spirit connection is so important in the healing process?
The reason being is because when we talk about pain and the stress connection, and when you look at pain and stress, you're looking at it physically, you're looking at it mentally, you're looking at it emotionally, and you're looking at it spiritually. And that's what brings the mind, body, and spirit together in the healing process. And I say that because if we're talking about someone who, if I use the analogy of where we're talking about using the power of touch as it heals related to pain, stress connection with the mind, body, and spirit connection, we're talking about, here's like an example. If someone is physically in pain, then the first thing you're going to do, and this is an example, when you say if you hit the funny bone on your elbow, and what's the first thing that you're going to do?
Rub your elbow.
Now, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Scream.
And most definitely, the first thing you're going to do is going to be a verbal outburst. And when you do that, the message goes to the brain. There's trauma in the area in the elbow. And then what's the next thing you're going to do?
Rub your elbow.
You're going to rub it. Message then goes to the brain. We've got to now release the body's natural pain relievers to start bringing some soothing sensation and comfort to that area. That's the physical touch. That's the mind-body connection on the physical side. Say, for example, someone's energy level has just hit rock bottom and they're in a state of depression. And what you're going to look at, all they may need is for someone to just say, "How are you? Is there anything I can do that might be able to help you?" That's an mental and emotional touch through words. You just communicated something. And all of a sudden, that person's spirit just got lifted and they're feeling much better. Or someone may be going through some type of emotional problem, that they're having with their family. And all they needed was someone just to smile at them and give them a smile and say, everything's going to be all right. And just that could kind of release them. So what we're looking at, various forms of touch that connects the mind, body, and spirit and emotions in oneness with the pain stress connection in terms of how touch affects. And that's how you bring all of that together. And it kind of helps us to change how we see touch and move it from being something negative as being something that's culturally positive because it's a universal thing for everybody. It's
Mm,
something that everybody can understand and relate to. Two of the most powerful touching words is called thank you.
mm,
And just saying thank you does a lot for people that we don't even know
mm,
how that just lifted somebody. And so that's what we've got to start thinking about when we start talking about mind, body, and spirit in connection to pain and stress connection in terms of relieving pain.
mm. Yeah, what's quite interesting again when you were speaking there, what came to my mind was quite often I'll have a consultation with a client. They're normally most of the time they're 30 minutes.
Hmm.
And very early on in the consultation, it becomes very clear to me that the best thing for me to do right now is just to listen.
That's it.
Right. And
That's it.
I think the temptation can be as a practitioner is to feel like you need to do something. Right.
Yes,
Whereas, and as I get older, it gets easier to not do anything, but to listen to someone. And I feel it's especially, I mean, it's, first of all, it's very powerful
yes,
just to not just to listen, but to make it clear to the person that's talking that you're hearing them as well. Right.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
just to paraphrase back what they've said so that they know that they're being understood as well.
And that's so important because of the fact that listening is something that's very hard for people to do. Most people just hear words. They
Mm,
don't listen
mm,
because when you're listening, there's always a message on top and there's a message underneath. So if you're listening for the message that's underneath. And
mm,
that's where you get at the healing process because now they have shared with you their deepest essence.
mm,
And when somebody shares their deepest essence with you, that's a trust factor
mm,
between you and your client and you as the practitioner.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think another reason why I see it as a powerful tool when working with my clients is because quite often I'm the first person that's actually ever listened to them, right?
Exactly.
And it's very sad. Again, I'm not trying to bash medical doctors, but they don't listen quite often. Very, very rarely do they actually listen. It's like, oh, you've got this, okay, you need to do that. And to be fair, they don't have the time to listen either, right? And they don't have the training to listen, you know? And
That is crucial.
mm,
That's the reason why most people are very frustrated and disturbed with healthcare practitioners in the conventional medicine because of the fact that it's not about listening. It's
mm,
about, let me take this test and we find out we're doing, then let me find what medication is related to this test that I have, administered for you, and we go from there. And so then what do? We're back and forth, cutting out medication, increasing medication, or whatever. And
mm,
that's not dealing with treatment. Because if your patient has come to you saying they're having a problem with the medication, that means you need to be listening. What is the problem that they are having with the medication?
mm,
That needs to be answered. And
yeah,
it's something that, like, you should not ignore and say, okay, well, let's just cut it back. And say, no, no, no. They're trying to tell you it does this to me, it does that to me. And you're not listening because, like you said earlier, you're not trained in the repercussions of medications that you prescribe to
mm,
your patients. And that's a real problem.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And again, it's really interesting you say that. Um, well, we were talking before we started recording, and I've spent a fair bit of time in and out of hospital, not for my own requirement, but helping others. And someone who was in hospital, they they were rushed to hospital with, let's just say, it was severe tummy pain.
Right, right.
And when they first got there, they were seen by a consultant, and the consultant said, "Sounds like you've got diverticulitis, but want to do a CT scan just to make sure before we diagnose anything. But sounds like you've got diverticulitis." So many hours later, they got a CT scan, and days later, they got a diagnosis of colitis. Right,
Hmm.
and then 2 weeks later, the same issue happened. They went to a different hospital.
Right, right.
They got to the hospital. They looked at all the tests that were done at the other hospital. They ran their own tests. But this time, the doctor actually asked questions,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Then did a ultrasound
Right.
and said, the reason you're having tummy problems is because your bladder is inflamed, because it's not releasing urine and it's blocking your colon. And the reason that well, he said, the reason I think your bladder is inflamed is because of the medication you're on. He said, the medication you're on is only supposed to be used for 4 weeks. And I can see that you've been on it for 10 years,
Oh my goodness.
right? So the answer was that this person didn't have diverticulitis, didn't have colitis. They had a bladder issue caused by the medication that they'd been prescribed, right? But it took the first medical doctor to actually properly listen. And, you know, again, I should say the first hospital they went to, it was like a war zone in there. I can see why things get missed and why the doctors don't have time to
Mm,
ask
mm.
the right questions. But it's very rare that I give praise to a medical doctor, but this one who actually worked
Right.
out what the issue was, again, we're going back to causality. What was the cause? He
But
was
look
like,
at the suffering that that patient had
yeah,
gone through for all those years.
yeah,
Oh, wow. That
yeah. But it just shows you a little bit of time, a little bit of interest, asking the right questions and actually listening to the answers
yeah,
can really help you get to the root cause of the problem.
exactly, exactly. And it's crucial. It's extremely crucial
Mm,
that, you get second opinions, and you get
mm,
opinions that feels good to you,
mm,
not just because somebody says it. Is it something that you can relate to? Does it feel good to you?
mm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I want to move on a little bit. And I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit to move forwards, if that makes any kind of sense.
Sure.
So, obviously, we started off talking a little bit about reflexology, but what we didn't do, we didn't define what reflexology actually is. So, for those people that perhaps don't know what reflexology is, could you just explain what it is? Hey, Rebels, did you know I now produce an exclusive No Punches Pulled episode every month? These episodes feature controversial guests who aren't afraid to expose lies, share stories of being gaslit or cancelled, and provide real world solutions for achieving optimal health and maintaining your freedom. These are the kind of episodes that got me cancelled back in 2022, booted off Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and even deplatformed from LinkedIn. But I'm still here, and these powerful episodes are available exclusive for subscribers only. For the price of just one takeaway coffee per month, you'll gain access to content the authorities don't want you to hear. By subscribing, you're not just supporting the Radical Health Rebel podcast, you're joining the fight for uncensored truth, education, and inspiration. It's easy to sign up. Just head to the show notes, click support the show, and follow their instructions. Prefer watching your podcasts? You can also subscribe on Substack by searching Radical Health Rebel. There, you'll also receive weekly articles and more. all for the same low price. Let's rebel against censorship and the lies of mainstream media. Together, we can build a healthier, fairer, and freer world. Thanks for your support, and let's keep rebelling.
Okay, reflexology is the art and science of working specific reflex nerve ending points on the hands, feet, and ears to relax the body, improve circulation, reduce toxins and impurities, and bring about a sense of relieving pain as well. The way that I can best kind of explain it to you, if you ever look at a chart of the nervous system and you'll see how all the nerve endings, they begin in your head and they run straight through your body, ending in your hands, feet, and ears. And so there are specific points on the hands and on the feet that connect to organs and systems of the body that we usually activate when we're reflexing the nerve endings to relieve pain or find whatever the stress and discomfort is. Another way that I can kind of make it a little clearer, think about a reflexologist as being an electrician, because when your electricity goes out, you can just flip the circuit breaker and all of a sudden electricity will come on. If you do that and electricity doesn't come on, you have to call an electrician in because what you're talking about, there's a problem with the wiring, so the connection isn't happening in order for you to get electricity that you need. And so that's what a reflexologist is. It's like they are the electrician of the body. They work specifically with reconnecting the nerve endings to the specific points that may be having a problem, be it circulation, be it elimination, be it pain, be it removal of toxins and impurities. So that's like the concept of how reflexology works.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, from looking at reflexology myself, there seems to be quite a similarity to acupuncture. Would that be correct?
In essence, it is. The only difference is acupuncture works specifically on the nerve endings directly in the body from head to toe. Whereas in reflexology, we only work the nerve endings found in the hands, feet, and ears specifically in
Mm,
terms of what we do. But the concept is still quite the same.
mm. Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned, I mean, my own experience of receiving reflexology is I just always feel really good afterwards. I mean, it can be a little bit painful when it's being performed on you. I find anyway, um, but I always feel really really good afterwards. Why?
I like that question.
Yeah, so I was going to say. So what is it that makes people feel good after having reflexology?
Let me kind of back up. When you talk about reflexology, you talk about it in the standpoint of the cultural connections, because there are several different cultural connections in terms of administering reflexology.
Mm,
One of the things about the Western culture, we don't have a high pain tolerance.
mm,
And so by not having a high pain tolerance, if you get a reflexology session that may be painful, that might be something you might not want to consider doing reflexology because it was painful.
mm,
But what you're not understanding is that it's the pain that you're feeling that's relieving the pain.
mm,
That's the concept. And I say that to say, which goes back to the quick fix. So like,
mm,
we want it, basically, make it comfortable and we'll deal with it because we're only then looking at it from the standpoint of relaxation
mm,
and not relieving.
mm,
That's the difference. And I share with you because I've had the opportunity to study reflexology in China as well. And when I was in China, because I was studying, I didn't get a chance to have a reflexology session until it was close to the time that I was returning back to the States. And when I went through that reflexology session, it was excruciatingly painful.
Mm,
The pain was so intense, but I knew what was going on in terms of what they were working on as it related to me. But the pain was so intense that it lasted for a week. Remember, and I'm coming back to the States. But I understood, the process because in the Asian culture, when you see a reflexologist, the first thing they're going to ask to look at your hands. And what they're looking for is the callus on your
mm.
knuckles. That's what they're looking for. And that's what determines mastery in terms of the callus on your knuckles. And I thought that was quite fascinating in terms of how we deal with, reflexology from that particular point. But the pain process happens for a reason because the pain process is getting directly to the area that is really holding toxins that need to be released from the system. And that's usually what's happening when you have a painful reflexology session.
Mm. Yeah, I'm someone that doesn't mind pain when it's in that way. I mean, I used to see a massage therapist many years
Right,
ago, and he was a big guy. He was, I mean, he was big. Yeah,
right.
he looked like a big rugby player. I think he was once upon a time. And I mean, I'm talking when I would have been in my early 30s maybe. But I used to really like a really like tough massage. You know, I
Right,
mean,
right.
I don't think I was ever bruised, which is always a good sign of a good therapy.
Sure,
I've seen
sure.
people come out black and blue from massage therapists.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's not that's not how it should be done.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
but again, I would always feel so good afterwards.
Well,
Um,
the experience that I had in China, in terms of, the painfulness, I mean, I definitely have a high pain tolerance, so that's
mm,
not an issue for me. But the fact of the matter was the areas that they were working on, I knew that, there was some stress pain connections that needed to be released.
mm,
And we're talking about, you're a practitioner and you're constantly working all the time. And we're probably the worst people when it comes to taking care of ourselves. And so that's what that was really all about. Like you said,
mm,
with the experience, okay, you need to slow it down. You
mm,
need to start administering to yourself. Like, you're in need of a cleansing. You're in need of a healing. And
mm,
these are the areas that you need to be looking at in terms of your own personal healing. And so that was the essence that I got out of the pain that was connected with that session.
mm. Yeah, yeah. So how would you say that reflexology is used as like a medication-free pain relief alternative?
Well, it's used as a medication-free pain relief alternative from the standpoint that by stimulating the nerve endings on the hands, the feet, and the ears, delivering the message via the nerve endings to the brain to release the body's natural pain relievers known as endorphins, which
Mm,
is the same concept that you use in pain medication. The only difference is it numbs the nervous system so that you are no longer feeling anything. While when you're doing reflexology, the nervous system is still operational.
mm. Have you have you worked with people with, fibromyalgia?
Yes, yes, I have. And they go through some serious pain.
Mm,
You know, and they have definitely found reflexology to be real relieving for their pain. And what I do in my practice, because it's virtual,
right.
we work on teaching people how to do the basic reflexology techniques for their particular pain problem. And then we incorporate how to do the reflexology for the whole body as it relates to their health problems. So, which means a person can learn how to do reflexology on themselves for an area, or you can have a family member learn how to do reflexology. So that way, you now have your own reflexologist available to you 24/7 in your
Mm,
household, because that goes back to I wrote the book, Reflexology Today, a family affair, for the sole purpose of at least one family member being able to know how to do reflexology in terms of relieving pain and stress
mm,
inside the family.
yeah. Yeah, I hadn't, I hadn't even thought about doing reflexology on yourself, but I guess on your hands it would be quite simple to do.
Yes, it's kind of hard on your feet, but you can
Yeah,
really do it on your hands.
yeah.
On your stuff, you can work on your hands, but on your feet, it's really hard because you do harm to your body because of how you have to position yourself to
Mm,
work on your feet, and that
yeah,
would not be very beneficial.
yeah, yeah. Unless you were like 12 months old, then it'd be quite easy, wouldn't it?
Yes,
So,
sir.
so they put their big toe in their mouth and things like that.
Exactly, back in the day.
Yeah. So you've mentioned culture already, but why is it important? In terms of a pain relief wellness treatment plan. Why is culture important? Where does that come in?
Culture is very important because if you think about it, I always tell my clients, if you can connect with some older members in your family or older members in your community and just sit down and talk to them and ask them questions about what were some of the cultural healing techniques that you use, or some of the cultural healing techniques that you can remember and how they worked? Because you believe it or not, those same techniques are still workable today. And that's based on culture.
Mm,
And being because we're so disconnected from each other in terms of we don't talk about the cultural experience, the cultural exchanges, because everyone grew up with some type of cultural healing remedy that they can remember that they went through as a child.
mm,
And that's a part of the cultural connection in terms of healing and wellness.
mm,
And in allopathic medicine, we fail to connect the cultural connection because that plays a big role in the pain stress connection.
mm. Yeah, it's interesting. When you look at a lot of the philosophies that are around today, they're thousands of years old. Whether it's acupuncture, whether it's yoga, um, you know, shamanism, all
Yes,
all these things that are, absolutely ancient philosophy, energy meridians, traditional Chinese medicine. These are thousands and thousands of years old. And I think what a lot of people are probably unaware of is that modern medicine is about 100 years old, or maybe just a little bit older than that,
you're
right?
right.
And and what was interesting, I don't know if you're familiar with the Flexner report. I
Hmm.
think it was in 1912. I think that the Rockefellers, asked this guy Flexner to do a report, and what he came forward with is the modern medical model that we have that uses petrochemicals, which of course the Rockefellers pretty much owned petrol back then, or
Most
oil.
definitely.
And the other thing was that they wanted to remove all of the ancient wisdom from healing, right?
That's
You hear all
true.
the time people say, "Oh, homeopathy, oh, that's a load of nonsense," right?
Right.
Without even having looked into homeopathy,
Exactly.
you know. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of ancient wisdom out there, and I think it is important to try and look back and see what people were doing for thousands of years, possibly longer than thousands of years, to stay
And
healthy.
look at your cultural connection to it. You are culturally connected to it. And
Mm,
see, that's the piece that nobody talks about. Um, a prime example, which I can share, when I was in my 20s, I got diagnosed with hypertension. And what happened was at that time I was going to school, and working full time, and I worked at night, so which meant I ate late at night, all the wrong things that you could possibly do. But the problem was, as a child, I always suffered with migraine headaches, and I never took any medication, even as a child. I would just go in a dark room and just lay down and be quiet until it passed over.
Mm.
But this particular time, the headache was so excruciating and it was going on for 3 days. I'm still working, still going to school and doing all of that. So my family said, well, you better go check this out. So when I go to the doctor's telling me, now you on the verge of a stroke. And so my antennas immediately went up because I knew what that meant. Because what that's saying, and here we go, we're talking from a cultural perspective. When you're talking hypertension, you're talking about the genetic connection. And as it relates to hypertension, you're talking about the whole family eating the same way. And you activate the gene so that it's in the negative. And so for me, when I got the prescription that said, this is the medication that you will need to take for hypertension, automatically I looked at every last one of my family members who was diagnosed with hypertension, and they were on pain medication for life. And I said, that will never happen to me. I'm not taking any medication for hypertension.
Mm.
So what I did back then, there was a book called Back to Eden. I mean, we have all that we have now. That Back to Eden book by Jethro Cross became my Bible. Then there was another book called Cooking with Mother Nature by Dick Gregory. Those two books I used to put together my wellness program in terms of not taking medication for hypertension. The
Mm.
first thing I did, which I would never advise anybody to do, I stopped eating meat immediately. Cut it out right then and there. The day I left the doctor's office, I cut it out. But what happened was it created another problem for me because I became a severe anemic because meat puts fuel in your system.
Mm.
And I became anemic. So now I had to deal with that problem. But I say that as I fast forward to say, the fact of the matter is, I've never had a hypertension pressure attack since that incident, ever.
Mm. Mm.
Because I made the decision that I had to change so that I would not become a part of the cultural connection of pain and stress as it relates to hypertension that was connected to my family.
Mm.
And so these are the things you have to look at. Now, for me, I would never advise a client to do what I did, but I was my own research.
Mm.
That's what that was. I became the research piece in terms of what you need, what you can do to not have to take medication.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned those two books. I mean, I was actually thinking of another book even before you mentioned books, and that was Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon.
Yes.
That's a
Mhm.
really great book.
Yes.
Um, Another one, it doesn't go into as much detail in terms of actual foods, but Weston A. Price's book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, is another really
Mm.
good book, just
Yes.
to understand how, we're all
Exactly.
different and we need different diets, you know?
Exactly. And the thing that we need to here we go back again, it's understanding your body, listening
Mm.
to your body, paying attention. And some things may have to be drastic and some things don't have to be drastic. It's just deciding to make a change.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's why I put my stickability course together, because for most people, change is challenging. It
Yeah.
takes energy. It can be quite scary to change because we are creatures of habit.
Yes.
So when someone's suggested to change a habit, it generally creates a fear response. What do you mean I can't get home and watch 3 hours of television while stuffing my face with chocolate every night? You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
So again, it comes back to, empowering yourself and taking your own power back
Yes.
and not having to rely on anybody else. Because again,
Exactly.
if people didn't realize before 2020, you can't you can't rely on anyone else to look after your health.
Not in this day and age.
No.
You are the health connector.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything else you want to add? Anything else we might have kind of missed off? Any important points you want to get across before we wrap up?
Well, the one thing I'd like to do
Mm.
is in the African tradition, we have a practice of when you visit someone's home for the first time, you bring a gift. And
Oh.
I have a gift for you and your listeners. I've put together a medication and addiction free pain and stress relief poster that shares all of the various ways that you can use alternatives in relieving pain. And all you have to do is go to reflexology.com and download the poster. And that's my gift to you and your listeners. And the other thing that I would probably say in closing and leaving your listeners is that the most powerful healing tool that you can give yourself each and every day is when you wake up, the gift of gratitude.
Mm.
Wake up being thankful, giving thanks, because that's what sets the pace for your day. And if you wake up being thankful, you can start your day knowing that the power of touch heals all.
Mm. Yeah, very well said. I like that. I like that. Is there anywhere else that you want to send people to where people can find you, or is it just that one web address?
People can visit my website, focusonhealing.com. And if you go to my website, I encourage you, go to the contact page and write down any questions, any concerns you may have. And trust me, I will definitely get back and respond to you with answers. But that's where you can reach me. I'm also available on LinkedIn and Instagram as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And what's next for you?
Well, what's coming up next for me is kind of like, what you are doing. I'll be releasing what I call a 5 series digital ebook on customized reflexology that's related from infants to seniors. And that way you got special focus in terms of how you could start using reflexology for working with your family, specifically in whatever area that's of interest to you. So that's what's coming on the horizon.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And Njedika, thank you so much for your time. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you today. And I have to say, out of all my guests, you have my most favorite accent. So,
Well, I thank you. It was my pleasure. And just to be able to, you were definitely a very good host and you asked some really very pertinent questions that I really enjoyed answering. So I too, thank you.
my pleasure. My pleasure. So that's all from Njedika and me for this week. But don't forget to join me same time, same place next week on the Radical Health Rebel podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to give the show a rating and a review, and I'll see you next time.